some backlash for Airbnb. Folks taking to social media slamming hosts who give guests lists of chores to do before they check out. Customers say the hosts have asked them to take out the trash, which I think is somewhat reasonable. Do laundry? No, probably not. Even mow the lawn. This is, of course, all on top of a cleaning fee that more than half of the hosts on the platform do implement. It seems like if you're going to charge me a cleaning fee, then you shouldn't expect me to actually do the cleaning as well.
That's true.
Mowing the lawn, I'm not sure about that.
I mean, who wants to spend a vacation mowing the lawn?
No,
Hey guys, it's me here, Comrade Lavender here, and I'm back with another YouTube video here. Today I wanted to talk about pure evil the Airbnb Files, deep dive, capitalism, landlords, red flags, Palestine genocide, and true crime, etc. But before we get started, all my YouTube videos related to this topic will be on the screen right now if you would like to check them out. So let's get into this YouTube video topic.
Airbnb is being accused of bad practices during these fires. At least one woman says the company refused to refund her reservation for a rental dispute despite fires burning all around the home she had reserved. The company at first said the wildfires were not covered by its major disruptive events policy.
Are we seeing the downfall of Airbnb? I sure hope so. And I saw this girl come on here and ask that question. And she was talking about how she owns a cabin, and I want to say it's the Smoky Mountains, and how it used to stay booked like 85 to 95% of the time. And now it's barely getting any reservations. And she came on here and she was genuinely asking people like, why aren't you booking Airbnbs anymore? And I was like, oh, I think I can answer that because I've talked about this before on my page, and I used to love booking an Airbnb, right? Like late 2010s, early 2020s, my college era. It was so easy. You and a couple of friends could split a whole house. It was cheap. It was super, super fun. And the expectations were really simple. It was like, take out the trash, don't leave it disgusting. Fair enough, fair enough. But it's just not like that anymore, is it?
In October 2007, Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia, struggling to pay rent in San Francisco, rented out 3 air mattresses in their apartment to design conference attendees, launching AirBed Breakfast. The idea grew from a need for extra cash into a global hospitality platform. Later joined by Nathan Blecharczyk to form the company, Airbnb moved beyond spare rooms into pop culture, listing properties like Shrek's Swamp, the Barbie Dreamhouse, and collaborations with Houseplant. The company moved from offering cheap stays to selling an experience or a local experience that felt more authentic than hotels. Along with Uber and Lyft, Airbnb popularized the sharing economy and made it common to stay in strangers' homes. After initial pandemic-related challenges, the company posted its first full-year profit in 2022, largely driven by longer stays and a surge in travel. It currently boasts over 8 million listings in over 220 regions and countries. Airbnb showcases parasite landlord behavior through a system where guest feedback highlights bad maintenance, poor communication, and misleading listings. Furthermore, the platform exposes, through its listing data, the conversion of long-term housing into short-term rentals, driving up rent and causing community disruption. The United States and Canada are prime examples of being in the midst of a housing crisis that shows no sign of breaking anytime soon or in the future. Want to ever own a house in a major city? Too bad. Not going to happen unless you have generational wealth via you being a nepo baby or inheriting a property you can sell for a down payment. Looking to move outside the major areas to save a bit of money? Good luck. Prices throughout the countries have risen astronomically, so even the more affordable spots are now well out of reach for most people. Thinking about renting. Prepare yourself for paying more to live in a smaller space than ever before, that is, if you can find a suitable place at all. The United States empire is in decline and crumbling, and the overall housing situation for people is bleak. One major contributor to the housing crisis is while the U.S. has over 14 million vacant housing units, that the US does have a housing shortage, particularly of available and affordable housing, rather than a total lack of structures. Airbnb has made this issue worse. In recent years, many existing parasitic landlords determined that they could make more money putting their properties up as Airbnbs as opposed to renting them out to long-term tenants. As such, many did just that. At the same time, other prospective property buyers decided to purchase homes or condos solely for the purpose of renting them out as Airbnbs. 2019 study from 3 academics at McGill University's School of Urban Planning about the impact of short-term rentals on the housing market in Canada found that in 2018, 31,000 entire homes were rented frequently enough on Airbnb that they are unlikely to house a permanent resident. That is a significant number of homes, and Airbnb has only grown since the study was released, going from a revenue of $3.6 billion USD in 2018 to $5.9 billion USD in 2021.
My landlord had tried to sell the home a year ago. There were realtors and prospective buyers coming into the house. I'm staring at them talk about how they're going to turn my home into an Airbnb and displace me and my family.
Like many places in America, Renee Mejia's hometown of Newburgh, New York, is rapidly getting more expensive.
This is like the neighborhood I wanted to highlight that they call the Newburgh Renaissance. $15 burgers, like $8 drinks and stuff like that.
One force helping drive this change, in Newburgh as elsewhere, is one of Silicon Valley's darlings, a company bringing in record profits while driving up rental and home prices, Airbnb.
Housing shortages nationwide, Newburgh's no different.
I think he's very right. There is a housing shortage, and Airbnbs are definitely playing a role in that.
The Hudson Valley, which includes Newburgh, is one of Airbnb's fastest growing markets. Airbnb argues that they're not a factor in housing getting more expensive. But just a few miles away from where Renee lives in Newburgh, there's someone whose work undermines that narrative.
If we look at the data for Newburgh, 114 Airbnb listings, 99 of them are entire homes, only 15 are private rooms. Between 2016 and 2023, the number of Airbnb listings grew 1,000%.
Murray Cox is a researcher and data activist, founder of Inside Airbnb. Since 2015, he has been tracking the company using data from Airbnb listings worldwide to analyze the company's effect on housing.
Airbnb impacts long-term rentals, basically by taking housing off the market.
The pandemic has offered further proof of Airbnb impacting housing supply, as when short-term rentals became less profitable, options for long-term tenants shot back up. For example, a July 2020 Zoocasa report found that there were 83% more Toronto condo apartments listed for rent in June of this year, compared with June 2019. But rental listings were 257% higher over that same period for 10 buildings in the downtown entertainment district and waterfront, a popular area for Airbnb visitors. Of course, the declining profitability of Airbnbs wasn't the only thing responsible for this shift, but it did play a notable role, including in helping to turn ghost hotels, which are buildings with very few actual tenants relative to short-term rentals, into places people live. At least momentarily, that is, as once this trend changed, owners started turning their properties back into short-term rentals and potentially illegally evicting tenants to do so. But beyond merely preventing new people from buying or renting homes in an area, Airbnbs also play a role in destroying the communities already there, on a systemic level. The McGill study notes that. Some scholars have further drawn a connection between STRs and gentrification, arguing that the financial incentives which STRs offer to landlords drives the displacement of low-income residents in favor of tourists. On a personal level, those who reside in buildings that either allow Airbnbs or don't actively crack down on them report their living conditions becoming significantly worse once units start being used for short-term rentals. Lifehacker has published an article titled, "What Can You Do If Airbnb is Ruining Your Neighborhood?" Writing, having a short-term rental in your neighborhood can result in a long list of misery, noisy parties, clogged parking, and property damage. If you haven't heard a lot of nightmare stories, that might be because Airbnb spends a lot of money to keep those out of sight. In May 2018, a man was shot and killed during a party at an Airbnb in the Greater Toronto area. In January 2020, 3 people were shot to death and 2 injured at an Airbnb in downtown Toronto. Later that year, in October, another shooting happened in an Airbnb at a building just a couple kilometers away. In this case, multiple bullets went through the wall into the neighboring unit, where someone actually lived. Airbnb Canada compiled some of these and other incidents in a Twitter thread that month, writing, "Since 2016, there were 10 Airbnb-related shootings, 1 kidnapping Russian roulette with a loaded gun and 2 stabbings in Topoli, maybe more. 5 shootings in Airbnbs since 3 young men died in 2020. This list doesn't include the GTA. All of this took place within a few years in a specific area of one province in one country. Of course, these sorts of events aren't exclusive to Airbnbs and, according to the company, are rare. Still, the evidence is overwhelming that Airbnbs have a negative impact on the communities they infiltrate."
Cancellations are happening right now. 60,000 Airbnbs have just been banned in Spain. So if you have booked or are traveling in the next couple of years, do your due diligence and check if the place is legally registered.
Now Airbnbs are the same price as hotels, if not more. And with a hotel, you're getting actual service. Like, you don't have to clean, you don't have to strip the beds and start the laundry, take out the trash and load the dishwasher, and take a picture of the thermostat before you leave. Like, there's a whole checklist. I don't clean that much at my own house. Like, be so serious. Why am I paying a cleaning fee and then also being told I need to clean? And I don't care what anybody says. I love hotel amenities. I do. I want the fresh towels. Like, I want the toiletries. Like, especially on a beach trip, when you're washing your hair every single day. I'm not trying to use my $50 shampoo every single day. Get me the little hotel bottles. Let a girl live. And on top of that, is it just me, or do Airbnbs just feel riskier now? They do. Like, you're constantly hearing stories about hidden cameras, weird hosts showing up unannounced. Like, from a woman's perspective, it just doesn't feel as safe as it used to. And as a matter of fact, don't even get me started on the hosts. A couple years back, I literally booked an Airbnb for a music festival. Like, it had to be at least 6 months in advance because I knew it was going to be hard to find something as it got like closer to the festival. And then a week or two before, the host messages me saying like they didn't realize there was a music festival and they could have charged more. And they asked me to cancel. But don't worry, they told me I could rebook at a higher price. Excuse me. And when I said no, suddenly there were unforeseen renovations and my reservation got canceled.
It's worth mentioning here, too, that Airbnb has also allowed its platform to be used by hosts with listings in illegal settlements on occupied Palestinian land.
Amnesty International is accusing some of the world's best-known hotel booking and travel companies of supporting illegal settlement expansion in the occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem. It says Airbnb, Booking.com, Expedia and TripAdvisor are fueling human rights violations against Palestinians by listing hotels and activities in Israeli settlements. Airbnb had 300 listings, TripAdvisor 70, Booking.com 45 and Expedia 9. After an investigation by Al Jazeera and Human Rights Watch in November, Airbnb said it would remove the listings in settlements in the occupied West Bank, but not occupied East Jerusalem,
thereby allowing people to profit off of violating international law. Airbnb collects a commission of up to 23% on rentals located in illegal Israeli settlements. As of 2025, the number of such listings grew to approximately 350, up from 139 in 2016. Travel platforms are accused of whitewashing the genocidal occupation by promoting these areas where the IDF military terrorizes Palestinians on a daily basis as warm and loving communities, effectively legitimizing the murder and genocide of Palestinian people and their native land to a global audience.
Airbnb while black. Frustrated users of the home-sharing site claiming they were refused accommodations because of their skin color. Now facing a class action lawsuit, today the company acknowledging the issue for the first time and pledging to battle discrimination head-on. Here's ABC's Sunny Hostin.
Feel at home anywhere.
It's the room and home sharing site whose slogan is "Belong Anywhere." But many users have been feeling anything but welcome.
Being denied because of the way I look, I mean, it sucks.
23-year-old Curtina Crittenden ignited a social movement under the hashtag Airbnb while black when she took to Twitter voicing how impossible it was to book a place in Miami for her girlfriend getaway.
Every single message that I got had the worst excuses in the world as to why they weren't accepting me.
Curtina believes she was repeatedly denied by hosts because of the color of her skin. So when she tweaked her profile picture, she says her suspicions were confirmed.
So I changed my name to Tina, and then I put up a photo of a cityscape in Chicago. Once that happened, I never had any issues booking any place on Airbnb.
Users posting hundreds of similar incidents under the hashtag Airbnb while black. Some users claiming to wear their army uniform just hoping to avoid rejection. Others commissioning their friends to book places for them. And then there was this host in North Carolina, blatantly rejecting a black user with a racist rant of messages, dropping the N-word and adding, "This is the South, darling." Airbnb permanently banned that host, the CEO calling the comments unacceptable.
Airbnb has faced significant, well-documented challenges regarding racism and discrimination on its platform, with black travelers in particular reporting that they are denied bookings or treated poorly by hosts.
Makes me feel terrible, but I think it's part of the microaggressions of just being a black American.
Chicago resident Cortina Crittenden says she experienced racial bias on Airbnb. She started the hashtag Airbnb while black.
It took me about 7 to 8 times when I was using Airbnb, and each time I would get like a random excuse from the host, like, "Oh, it's booked. I decided to stay in my place this week."
You got suspicious, then what'd you do?
That's when I changed my profile. I changed my photo to a cityscape in Chicago. Then I shortened my name from Cortina to just Tina. And then after that, I never had any issues.
A Harvard Business School study confirmed what Crittenden suspected. Airbnb guests with distinctly African-American names were about 16% less likely to be accepted than those with white names.
This issue was brought to widespread attention in 2016 through the social media hashtag Airbnb while black, leading to studies, lawsuits, and policy changes. A 2016 Harvard Business School study found that guests with distinctively African-American names were about 16% less likely to be accepted than those with white names. Numerous reports exist of black guests being rejected, only for them to book the same property immediately after using a profile with a white-sounding name or no photo. In some cases, hosts have used racial slurs when canceling bookings, as was the case with a North Carolina host who was permanently banned in 2016. There have been reports of neighbors or hosts calling the police on black guests, mistakenly believing they were intruders.
A woman who used Airbnb to stay at Waterside Green Apartments says that she found a hidden camera inside, and now the host is facing charges. Cesar Mendez Fuentes faces a voyeurism charge. Police say he rented the apartment on Woodruff Road to the woman who is from Calhoun, Georgia. Police say the woman called them Friday after she found a camera in the unit.
They're placing it in things that you don't necessarily see, such as clocks or smoke detectors. And nowadays, technology-wise, a lot of that stuff can be viewed from your phone live. So you do have to be careful with those type of things.
Airbnb's policy says that hosts have to be upfront in their listings about surveillance cameras. The policy also says that they don't allow any surveillance cameras in private places, like a bedroom or a bathroom.
Red flags, such as undisclosed cameras or discrepancies between photos and reality, are highlighted by disgruntled guests. Hidden cameras in Airbnbs are illegal and prohibited under company policy, yet instances of spying, including potential illicit recording for pornographic purposes, have been reported by guests. As of April 30, 2024, Airbnb bans all indoor security cameras, regardless of disclosure, and requires hosts to disclose any exterior cameras. Secretly filming guests in private spaces, bedrooms, bathrooms, changing areas is illegal in most jurisdictions. If cameras are found, guests should contact local police, as these devices can be used for illegal voyeurism. Bugs in cameras have been found disguised as smoke detectors, alarm clocks, power sockets, and USB chargers. In some instances, hosts have used information or recordings to harass guests after their stay, leading to federal cyberstalking charges. Some people have the impression that using Airbnb is a noble way to help out people in the communities they're visiting. This is not the case, unless you count helping the rich get richer. The McGill study found that the top 10% of Airbnb hosts earn a majority of all revenue. Contrary to the rhetoric of home sharing, almost 50% of all Airbnb revenue in Canada in 2018 was generated by commercial operators who manage multiple listings. This was even worse in some cities, such as Montreal, for example, where the top 1% of hosts made 30% of the city's total revenue. A 2019 CBC investigation dug deeper on this trend in Canada, finding that, while Airbnb promotes itself as a darling of the sharing economy, touting stays in real people's homes and relationships with personable hosts, its biggest players in Canada are actually, and sometimes secretly, multi-million-dollar for-profit corporations. The CBC describes one profile on the site as follows. Sporting a crisp button-up shirt in his profile photo, smiling Airbnb host, Alejandro, states he's been around the world and thus understands other travelers much better. It goes on to note, according to the Airbnb data gathered by CBC News over a 24-hour period earlier this month, he had 238 listings in Montreal, the Ottawa area, Toronto, Calgary, Edmonton, and Vancouver more than any other host. Surely a Herculean task for one man to manage, even one who declares hospitality my life. Seems strange, right? Well, the CBC found that. It turns out Alejandro had help. An internet image matching search using his profile photo shows he was actually a paid employee, described as an Airbnb specialist. For Montreal-based corporate stays, a multi-million-dollar company that mostly rents longer-term executive suites to businesses relocating staff. There are many other similar cases detailed in the article. In Toronto, according to Inside Airbnb, 48% of hosts have more than one listing, with about 12% of these hosts having 10 or more. The top 3 hosts in terms of number of homes and apartments have 151, 73, and 61 listings, respectively.
Tell me why I just saw 3 different videos on my TikTok page of people complaining about how Airbnb canceled their booking for Coachella 2 to 3 days before their trip. And then when I was reading the comments, I see that apparently these Airbnbs, or the hosts, were canceling them and then reposting them for a higher price.
The Airbnb cancellation scandal reports flooded social media from festival goers, including high-profile influencers, claiming their reservations were abruptly canceled just days before the event. Many attendees suspected hosts of canceling original bookings to relist them at significantly higher prices, sometimes thousands of dollars more. One influencer reported being left stranded in an in-and-out parking lot after a sponsored house turned out to be a total scam. Eventually checking into a Motel 6, locals attempted to capitalize on the housing shortage by renting out unconventional spaces, such as a laundry room for $1,300. Airbnb has been accused of workers' rights violations. An example is worker misclassification. Airbnb's customer service partner, Arise, was ordered to pay $2 million to at least 250 workers in Washington, D.C., for allegedly misclassifying them as independent contractors and failing to pay minimum wages. In a high-profile case, a live-in domestic worker filed a lawsuit against Varsha Rao, former head of global operations at Airbnb, and her husband, alleging they paid her less than minimum wage, failed to pay overtime, and subjected her to a hostile work environment. Public debate has surfaced regarding whether extensive chore lists for guests where travelers are required to perform labor like laundry or cleaning could be considered a form of wage theft.